Hello and welcome to today's presentation from Reltio, Strategies for Trusted Timely Data to Enhance Member Experience and Reduce Costs. This is Kyle Murphy, Vice President of Editorial at Xtelligent Healthcare and moderator of today's panel discussion of trends and best practices in data unification and management to reduce healthcare costs for members. We have a full program, so audience members are encouraged to submit questions that will be addressed in follow-up. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our three panelists. First, we have Venki Subramanian from Reltio. Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Hi, Kyle. Nice to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Venki Subramanian. I am the Senior Vice President of Product Management at Reltio. Reltio, as many of you would know, is a provider of data unification and management software. And in my role, I lead product management. Basically, I'm responsible for creating the products and solutions and working with our strategic customers to make sure that they are getting the most out of their investments in data and in creating really unified data for the purposes of powering their business initiatives. Been in enterprise software for most of my career, and I'm really excited to be here talking about today's topic about how companies focus on healthcare member experience.
Excellent. He is joined by Ajay Kumar of PwC. Ajay, please provide some background for us.
Thanks, Kyle. Nice to be here. Ajay Kumar, I'm a partner with PwC's healthcare practice. In my role, I work at the intersection of healthcare payers and cloud, digital, data, analytics, and AI technologies, essentially to help payers to drive business outcomes and value through transforming their internal data and analytics organizations, leveraging innovative technologies, and then driving that value with their varied stakeholders, including members, patients, providers, and other constituents.
Excellent. And lastly, we have Brajesh Kaladindi of Blue Shield of California. Brajesh, why don't you tell us a little about your work, you and your work at BSCA, please?
Hi, Cal. Thanks for inviting me here, and really excited to be part of this group of folks where I'm going to be learning a lot myself as well. Firstly, about me, I'm a senior director at Blue Shield of California in charge of data services. And I've been with healthcare for about 22 years now. And as you know, that by that, I'm very passionate about healthcare and also, technology strategy, helping, drive better healthcare outcomes for our members. And I'm really excited also to share that we are in a journey of transformation, and as part of the journey, leading some of the data pipeline and platform foundations that we're going to talk a little more about today. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Like I said before, we have a full program. So let's get into today's content. Ajay, let's start with you. What are some of the macro healthcare trends that are bringing new opportunities, and what are some of the expected outcomes?
Absolutely. So in healthcare, as we all know, there's a lot of innovation currently happening, embracing new technologies. There are five major trends that we see commonly across the healthcare continuum. The first one is around rapidly increasing Gen AI adoption, right? It's both by payers, health systems, to enable not only just admin cost optimization, right? So how do you make your internal operations more effective and more efficient, but also improving quality of care. An example could be a co-pilot that sits with the physician at the point of care, to augment diagnostic and treatment efforts. A second trend that we see is the increased adoption of virtual and community-based care models. This is, accompanied by advances in sophisticated wearables, remote monitoring, other long-term care options, especially important to support our aging population, as well as make an impact in, underserved communities who may not have the right access, to the traditional, health system that, the rest of the community does. The third area is around data security, right? So there are regulations such as Washington's My Health, My Data Act, really giving patients, members more autonomy on their data, how it is leveraged. This is resulting in significant industry investments around, managing data privacy, consent, and the associated processes that need to be enabled in place. The fourth area is, vertical healthcare integrations. You'll see more and more mergers and acquisitions happening, and then especially in these value-based care models to deliver more affordable and high-quality cares. Both payers are innovating their own businesses to own and orchestrate care models that cut across not just kind of classic, payer care management, but also then gets into the physician practices themselves. And then finally, member and patient experience. Seamless experience at a person level, regardless if they're a member, a patient, or even a prospect, right, is front and center, given all of the vertical healthcare integration and other trends we highlighted.
Excellent. Thank you for that context. Venki, let's bring you into the conversation. What do you see as the opportunities of investing in member experiences from Reltio's experience working with some of healthcare's industry leaders?
I think Ajay, you summarized some of the key trends and opportunities quite well, and I will pick it up from where you left off around the focus on member and patient experience. I think when we talk to our customers and prospects, that's one of the top areas that we hear companies are investing in, right? And it's a no-brainer. I mean, we know that the better experience we can provide to members, patients, the more the services that we can provide to them, the more stickier they become, right? They continue with the plan, they continue to leverage the benefits of the different services being offered and things like that. So I think member experience and patient experience tend to be pretty much top of mind. The other areas around focus on affordable healthcare and how do we improve the operational efficiency to be able to provide affordable healthcare is top of mind. Broadly speaking, if you look at the areas that healthcare companies focus on, they're focused on, of course, customer retention and growth, which is how do we make sure that we are providing the best services for our members and retain them. How do we focus on operational efficiency so that we can do provide services at a more affordable cost? And the other key area is, of course, how do we make sure that we are complying to different regulations and reducing risk, right? And healthcare, as you know, is a highly regulated area, so that is another top of mind priority for many of the business leaders as well as IT and data leaders in the healthcare space.
Excellent. Brajesh, let's bring you in. What do you see as some of the market opportunities for Blue Shield of California, and where you're going to be focusing your efforts?
Thank you, Kyle. I do see a lot of opportunities there. And firstly, what we did is we built a unique, first of its kind data platform called Experience Cube that brings together disparate sources of data to improve member experiences. As an example, we enabled data driven care coordination through a system called the Care Connect, through which our Blue Shield care managers can create programs that connects members to resources that addresses social factors. Another area is around reducing healthcare costs, which is always an opportunity. We are sharing clinical data to provide assistance to members to close care gaps, thereby improving health outcomes and reducing overall cost of care. Another opportunity we are seeing is with data sharing. California is taking a lead role in mandating all players in the healthcare system ecosystem to share data. And with additional FHIR, which is the Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resource Standards, which is being driven out of the federal data sharing mandate, it is also enabling data exchange, standardization, and availability of data in a timely manner to improve care. And lastly, I'll say that AI and specifically Gen AI, it holds tremendous promise for the healthcare industry. And we are certainly looking at how to leverage it to improve care and access for our members in a more responsible manner. Back to you.
Thank you. Let's stay on the subject of AI for a moment. Can you give some examples across other industries, um, just about some of the AI related opportunities that you see potentially translating into healthcare?
Absolutely. I think AI is top of mind for everybody. In fact, there is a CEO survey where 88% of CEOs actually said that their current and near-term investment strategies around, they have current and near-term strategies around investments in AI, right? And it is for a good reason because everyone is looking at AI as a technology that is going to unlock tremendous amount of productivity, inefficiency, cost savings, and improved experiences for all. And those are exactly the kind of common aspects that are easily translatable from any industry into healthcare as well. I think both Ajay and Brijesh, they both talked about member experience as a focus area. With AI, especially with some of the recent enhancements in generative AI, we can have conversational experiences, autonomous conversational experiences that can provide a lot more options for members to interact with their healthcare systems, right? To answer a simple question, why do I need to call and wait on a call center line for 20 minutes before I get connected to a human? Maybe the answer is very simple. It's just about going through my benefits and summarizing the information that I need. And this is a simple example of how AI can be applied in healthcare, which is really not very different from how insurance companies are looking at applying AI, or how financial services companies are applying AI in their own specific areas, right? So that is an easily translatable sort of area of investment. When it comes to operational efficiency, you can think of various places where a lot of human effort is involved in just translating information from one system to the other, copying over or summarizing information from physical documents into digital documents, and things like that. And this is again true for insurance, it's true for financial services, it's true in some cases even in high tech. Think of a contract that needs to be summarized and captured in a specific manner so that you can measure usage against entitlement in the high tech industry. And it is really not that different from how you think about similar kind of capabilities in the healthcare space, right? So operational efficiency is another place where you can apply AI. And we also touched upon compliance and risk as another area. Fraudulent claims is a challenge nowadays, which many companies are trying to address in the healthcare space. Think of fraudulent transactions in in financial services, right? Or fraudulent insurance claims in the insurance industry, in property and casualty insurance. They're again not very different. So I think what it does is, because there are so many common aspects and common capabilities that are easily transferable, I believe that we're going to see tremendous improvements in underlying technologies in these areas that are going to benefit not just financial service or insurance industry or healthcare, but across the board. We are going to see these kind of technologies being applied to improve customer experience, or in healthcare, as we are talking about today, right? Member experience or a provider experience, and others. So it's really an exciting phase that we are going through, actually, if you think about AI and the applications of AI.
So, Ajay, there's been tremendous digital transformation across healthcare over the past few years. I'm curious where AI fits into some of those transformation efforts. Where are we seeing kind of practical use cases for AI in healthcare?
Yeah, that's right, Kyle. And to build on Venki said, he said it well. There are a lot of lessons learned and example use cases that healthcare has started already adopt from other industries, right? So a couple of examples around kind of intelligent orchestration that Venki mentioned, right? So a contract, there are multiple different types of contracts in the world of healthcare. Provider contracts is an extremely cumbersome process. It's highly non-digitized today. Um, there are healthcare payers who are actually already looking at how to automate the configuration of those provider contracts that can then be used downstream by the operational systems. The other example Venki mentioned was around fraudulent claims detection. Very practical application in healthcare, not just for medical, but also, we see that in the pharmacy space as well. When you think about, fraud, waste, and abuse, especially with some of the opioid crisis, etc. Imagine if we had this capability, 10, 15, 20 years ago. The second, theme around the usage of AI is around amplified experience, right? So how do you leverage AI to optimize the experience that you have with, your stakeholders? Things like chatbots for health risk assessments, which traditionally was always, an actual paper document, right? That used to be filled by a member. Prior authorization processes, right? Both for providers and payers that are heavily kind of process oriented, requires a lot of documentation. There are opportunities to use, large language models to streamline that end-to-end process. And then finally, decision intelligence, right? So this is essentially the next frontier where, how do you basically use AI to drive clinical decision support in healthcare? Again, the technology is still nascent over here. But this is where, we can see the industry going, especially among providers who are increasingly looking to harness the power of AI in not only informing clinical diagnostic options, but also potentially treatment options, but ultimately the doctor, in control of the final decision. But AI driven recommendations is definitely the next frontier.
Excellent. Brajesh, let's come to you, but let's zoom out a little bit more about the marketplace opportunities that Blue Shield is seeing. What other areas is the organization focusing on?
Yeah, we're definitely looking to improve members' access to care and improve their overall health outcomes. Originally, as you know, Blue Shield of California being a payer, we used to get we are used to getting most of our clinical information through medical claims. Now we are getting information around clinical data directly from providers and from health information exchanges. And as an example, we are leveraging this data and being more proactive with the transition of care support when a member goes to an emergency department, to so that we can provide next best actions, and again helping improve those health outcomes. We're also seeking to integrate workflows with providers' electronic medical record systems to coordinate care and also close care gaps based on shared member insights. Blue Shield is also establishing interconnectedness between payers, providers, and members, and has taken a leadership role in bringing together different sources of data, which is more near real time, secure, trusted, and also seeking to provide a more retail like experience in healthcare, just like our consumers experience this with the banking.
Excellent. Let's stay on the subject of data. And Ajay, let's talk about some of the barriers. What do you see as some of the data related barriers or challenges in delivering these member experiences in achieving the different outcomes that we've talked about so far?
Yeah, absolutely. The example Brijesh gave is definitely one of the areas where payers are leading, right? The organization that Brijesh works with is definitely a vanguard in that space. But a lot of payers are, they're on the journey to modernize their data foundation. However, there are multiple challenges that they face in harnessing the power of the data assets themselves, right? So the first one is around data access and quality, right? Having difficulty in accessing, business facing consumption ready data so that you can drive meaningful business insights. The second is infrastructure, right? On the path to modernization, a lot of firms have not yet completely embraced the cloud. So that results in low performance, unscalable, and costly on-premise platforms on which then you have the added, burden of building analytical capabilities, that are naturally more suited for a cloud-based model. The third is, an opportunity to drive more enterprise standards, right? So around your data assets, around your analytic assets, so that you can have actually a singular source of truth for, across your organization. All of this is, the underpinning is, the talent and skills that you have, so that you have the right mix of functional and analytical skills, including rapidly evolving, Gen AI skill sets as well. And nothing of this is feasible without the right organization culture, right? So as you go on this journey, making sure that the culture focuses on data driven insights is something critical.
Thank you. Let's bring you into this question as well. What are you seeing in terms of your work with clients when it comes to data barriers and challenges?
Yeah, so I really like, Ajay, the term that you used about business outcomes focused consumption ready data, right? And the reason why we are talking about data in the context of today's conversation is because we understand that to drive the different outcomes, whether it's member experience or other kind of operational efficiency kind of things that we talked about, data is one of the foundations for that. Data is essentially the fuel that powers all of that, right? Any digital transformation essentially starts with getting your data to fuel those things. So our focus, or what companies really focus on when we work with them, is on creating that business outcomes focused consumption ready data, which is, I think, critical as a starting point. The challenges that normally we see is the traditional approach has been to create use case specific data sets, which means if you're starting to focus on customer experience, then you will collect and manage customer data in one manner. If you're trying to provide a different kind of services like augmented healthcare or other kind of things, then you will still manage the same kind of customer data, but it'll be done by a different department in its own different silo. So this silo or this use case specific collection and management of data has actually led to more fragmentation, more data silos, poor data quality, and not having access to the right data for the right organization or to drive the right outcomes, right? So, in our point of view, really, the most pressing issues that enterprises should focus on is to creating that trusted, unified data, which is at the foundation of any digital transformation. There are many studies done in this, to prove its importance. And there is a 2019 University of Texas study that actually talks about how just a 10% increase in data usability for Fortune 1000 organizations can lead to a revenue increase of about $2 billion for each of those companies, right? That is a significant impact, and that is a direct impact of how having the right data and making the data consumable can lead to revenue growth directly, right? Um, I think Ajay also touched upon the data infrastructure as a critical capability. That is another piece that is extremely important, right? As we look at the data that we need to manage for the purposes of driving digital transformation, we also need to make sure that the infrastructure that we are using is flexible and scalable, because the volumes of data are only increasing, not reducing. And especially to fuel some of the newer areas of investments like AI and machine learning, you need more data. That is the fuel. So we need to make sure that the infrastructure that we are choosing is scalable and from a technology and architecture perspective, flexible to the changing needs that we're going to see in this space.
Excellent. Ajay, let's talk about some solutions. How do you solve for these different data challenges? And in your opinion, what are some of the foundational elements to invest in, and what are some of the best practices that you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. So, I'll keep this brief, right? So, number one, we have to reduce the data deficit to meet the needs of the business, right? So, as Venki mentioned, focusing less on, domain by domain, but having, a way to kind of bring multiple data sets to actually solve, business use cases. Number two is reduction of data decay, right? So, how do you optimize the turnaround time from data to informations to insights that can then drive certain actions that lead to business outcomes and value? So basically, reducing that turnaround time is critical. The third is, time and effort to generate the insights as well, right? So how do you establish the right data capabilities and then the supporting tools and infrastructure so that you can, optimize the time and take advantage of, potential cloud native technologies to generate insights faster. Fourth is, enabling both, final decision makers as well as analysts with easy and intuitive self-service capability, right? Gone are the days where you have a single organization who caters to every single pattern that is required by the enterprise. So having that mix of both kind of a core team as well as self-service capability is critical. And then finally, creating that source of trusted, standardized enterprise data, that can drive business outcomes and value at scale.
Becky, what do you have to add?
I think I would summarize it, especially from a data management perspective and the data management architecture and the solutions we need, into four key buckets, right? The first area is really around how do we make sure that there is a holistic data strategies that starts with breaking down silos and unifies data from multiple silos into a single reusable asset across the organization. Supplying business systems with trusted, interoperable data is a first step of being responsive to market opportunities and risks, right? So that is what we want to start with as the first core capability. The second one is really how do we then put the right kind of guardrails for proper governance and security? Because the more data we manage, there are also regulatory requirements and risks that we need to consider. So, how do we make sure that for data management, we are including that as a foundational capability and not as an afterthought? We need to ensure that Trust is intact when you're in and you are in compliance with the ever increasing sets of regulations globally, right? That's the second one. The third piece is all the investments in data management is only useful if the data is put to use. So how do we make sure that we are creating data architectures and practices that mobilizes the data, that enables the data to be consumed, this high quality unified data across different users and functions in a real time manner? Because speed is extremely important. The traditional ways of looking at this data being collected, curated, and passed over hours to days is not going to meet the needs of the future anymore. So we need to make sure that this mobilization of data in real time is another critical capability that is considered as part of the data foundations, right? And the last but not least is the business responsiveness. I think one thing that we can all agree on is the requirements are going to change, the landscape we operate in is going to change, and we need a system, we need a strategy that actually supports that business responsiveness. So as your businesses evolve, and the requirements for business data changes, how do we make sure that the data infrastructure is ready to act or react to those changes in a fast and flexible manner? So that is the fourth and the last point that I want to highlight in terms of the solutions we need to consider.
So, Burjesh, let's talk about this in the context of Blue Shield of California. What was describe the thought process in terms of building a new kind of data foundation?
Yeah, our goal is to create a high tech, high touch experience for our members that's more holistic and personalized by removing long standing silos and bringing together data into the cloud. Starting with the near real time data availability, also knowing and understanding that not every data set needs to be in real time, very much business outcome focused, but also investing in automation and removing some outdated manual processes. And as we know, our membership base, as we increase the membership base, there's also the need to essentially scale platform, and cloud is key to that. So also as within healthcare, our times when we consume data is also very seasonal, like different enrollment periods. So cloud provides that technology scaling and also gives us the ability to be more easy to adapt or adopt those technologies and also evolve. And we all know that healthcare data is complex and distributed. So when multiple copies of data are created, it always leads to a concern over data integrity. So sharing data by lowering the number of copies of data and making it available to customers, providers, internal business units, or members, using the data sharing capabilities are actually driving some of our better, or I'll call it like best practices. But at the same time, making that data available from a self-service access and having dashboards to derive insights from data is another democratization opportunity for us.
Let's stay on the subject of best practices and maybe some lessons learned too along the way as you go through this modernization process.
Yeah, we put together a set of guiding principles that are tied to our data strategy and corporate mission to help drive our data foundation modernization. Data latency was at the core. For example, how do we deliver data to customers with faster time to market and correspondingly invest in near real time technologies? A best practice is looking at data as products across various domains or data domains in the information model. So we can build provider, member, claim domains in some of these and actually reuse this across multiple use cases and lines of business. Another best practice is build business defined terms, build a metadata catalog, build a data lineage, build some industry standardized reference data and also master data technologies for consuming this data. So these are some best practices. Let me also add a little bit of lessons learned there, where getting buy-in from the business is very important. We think working closely with the business from the beginning will help us outline our business outcomes better, and also having a good team where you're growing talent, which is very, very important for and actually developing them and navigating them, specifically because we live in a hybrid world where we're in a journey migrating a lot of data assets into the cloud, and going through that in a hybrid environment and building strong technology partnerships, which are also aligned with the company mission and values, is key. So partners that have experience in data modernization and foundation, not only in healthcare, but also in retail and other industry verticals.
Ajay, what are you seeing or what are you hearing in terms of some of the lingering myths in healthcare around either data unification or data management capabilities, and some of the things that you don't agree with from your experience
Yeah.
working in and around the cloud?
Yeah, a good question. I'm smiling because I think we can spend a whole hour just on the myths around, data in healthcare. But a few quick ones which, will resonate with Brajesh and Becky as well, right? Number one, always we hear cloud is not secure for healthcare, right? People cite mandates, compliance, regulatory requirements, so on and so forth. Second, that okay, great, we have a lot of data, but unifying all of that data into an integrated data model and managing that across the enterprise is either very costly or too time intensive to implement. So we're not going to go there. Another common myth that hoping this conversation has been able to bust a little. And then the third is, just, embarking on a model where technology can solve all of our challenges without strong, operating model underpinning across business and IT teams, as Brajesh mentioned, right? That technology is the panacea is another myth that we often hear.
Rajesh, do you agree? Are there others myths that you've seen in your experience working for a payer?
Yeah, I think Ajay covered a couple of those I was going to think about and share here. But definitely the nature of real time data, that scalable data scale, it cannot scale, and it's too costly and it's too long to get to. I think it's not really right. We have found that the power of cloud, advanced analytics technology, a lot of the streaming API efforts that the organizations have been putting in are actually in contrary, right, to that myth. But it is true that it'll be a multi-year journey, but the cost and business value are realized over time. The other myth Ajay also raised around is the regulatory compliance is not doable, but also just considering that it doable with cloud-based technologies. There's a myth that you cannot use with cloud-based technologies. But reality is cloud-based technologies can be more compliant and secure, and increasingly more of our cloud vendors are adopting industry standards and much faster. The other myth I would just call out is that healthcare data is not of high quality due to disparate sources. Partially true, but with the interoperability standards we spoke of, these disparate sources of data can actually be integrated, normalized, and consumed. Especially when you use these standards like the FHIR standards I mentioned earlier, they're examples of where we can actually solve for some of those myths that we're talking about.
Kyle, if I may jump in, I mean, I want to just touch on one of the specific points that both Ajay and Brijesh talked about, right, as a myth, which is that solving this data silo problem is going to be extremely costly and going to be time consuming. I think it is a myth, and but it also requires a careful approach to how we want to solve it. And Brijesh talked about how organizations like him, their own, are starting to look at data as products, which basically starts with number one, understanding what is the value that you want to drive with your data, right? So I think the biggest misconception, and maybe even the reason for that misconception, for this costly, lengthy process of for solving this problem, has stemmed from the fact that traditional practices and maybe even technologies around data unification has focused on just data, not the solution, not the problem itself, right? So I think by starting with business outcomes that we want to drive with the right kind of data and lining up your technology investments to drive to that is, I think, one of the critical ways to solve it. And of course, all of the other aspects around modern technology, leveraging modern technologies like cloud based technologies, applying AI in a meaningful manner, not just as a checkbox, but to drive meaningful results. Those are all important aspects, but I feel like I think we all touched upon this aspect of thinking differently about the time and the cost of this problem by really focusing on the value that it can deliver. And then we will all realize that maybe it's not so much about how long it takes, but it's about, are we able to deliver value with the amount of investments we are making in this area.
It's an excellent point. Rajesh, let's come back to you. What's in terms of the data journey that the Blue Shield of California is on? What's next? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. As we continue our cloud journey, we will continue to focus on data quality and availability. So we extend what we have already established with member experiences with our other constituents like providers, employers, and our brokers. Lastly, I think we'll continue to iterate and learn from what is working and how we are providing value. This is to realize our mission to create a healthcare system worthy of our family and friends and sustainably affordable.
Excellent. Let's bring Ajay and Venki back in here for one last question. So, Venki, how does Reltio and PwC bring its expertise to help customers using interoperable data to drive these business outcomes that we've been emphasizing throughout our talk?
Yeah, both PwC and Reltio, we share a common passion to deliver solutions that produce meaningful value for our customers, right? So I think that is really the starting point. And the benefit that we both have is we work with a wide variety of customers, not only in healthcare, but across multiple industries, right? So our focus has really been in taking that collective knowledge and incorporating that into the products and the solutions that we create. An example of that is Reltio. We created what we call velocity packs, which are pre-packaged configurations for specific data domains, working backwards from the different business scenarios or the outcomes that companies are trying to drive. So in healthcare, for example, we talked about member experience or provider onboarding and efficiency and things like that. So as part of our solution, we are able to package together the canonical data model and specific integrations that are required to manage your member data or the provider data or other kind of data domains, but lined up to specific outcomes that any company in that specific segment is trying to drive, right? Now, Reltio does not deliver the entire spectrum of solution by itself. We focus on one specific aspect, which is around unified data for the foundational data domains, for the core data domains, right? That has been our focus. So how do we create a member 360 or a provider 360? Those are the kind of capabilities we provide. This is where PwC as a partner comes in, where, with their expertise in implementing these solutions, understanding the organizations and how they are structured and how the data is being put to use in different manner, they're able to consult with these companies, advise them, guide them to leverage different pieces of technology and put that together into a common solution that drives those business outcomes and provides value to customers. So I look forward to a collaboration with PwC. We will continue to create more such reusable solutions and assets that we can take to market, and the focus is really how do we deliver value and how do we shorten the time to get to value for companies that we work with. Ajay, is there anything more you want to add?
No, you said it really well. Last thing I would say, just hyper focus on solving true business problems. That then we can drive outcomes for all of our stakeholders. Both members, providers, but also some of the other emerging players in the healthcare ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Special thanks to Venki, Ajay, and Brajesh for your time. A special thanks as well to our audience for viewing today. With that, we'd just like to also send a special thanks to Reltio for today's presentation. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.